Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Gridiron Gurus. My name is Luke, and joining with me, as always, is
Ryan Green.
Today, we're doing our last, but definitely not least, but last preview for the season, and I guess we'll break down the Super Bowl a little bit after, but we're gonna be going over the AFC Championship game that happened a week and a half ago at this point. So we released a mock draft. Now we're gonna do the AFC and NFC Championship games and give you our predictions for the Super Bowl, which we haven't talked about the Super Bowl yet. I know who I'm going with, and I'm going to be interested to see if you're going to go the same way. And I both know that we're both very it's very hard to pick this one because of various reasons that we'll get into. But first things, we'll talk about the NFC Championship game. Yeah. It was a rout. By near the end of the second quarter, it was kind of like, okay, Eagles are going to win this game. And it wasn't because, the Commanders, they were outclassed on the defensive line and the offensive line, and that definitely showed. And that was the problem with the Commanders pretty much all year. Is that they were fighting an uphill battle on the offensive and defensive lines. Cliff did a great job all year in hiding their offensive line, but they lost Sam Cosmi. The offensive line already wasn't that good. They played better than expected. That doesn't mean the talent was necessarily good.
Yeah.
Just because it wasn't they didn't let up a crap ton of sacks and they weren't always looking terrible. It was a lot of times because Cliff would have extra help in. They would Jaden Daniels' legs. He would get out of stuff, and they also just really prioritized the quick passing game.
Mm-hmm.
But the offensive line wasn't great for the Eagles, and they obviously went up against, in my opinion and most people's opinions, the best offensive line in football when fully healthy. Wasn't fully healthy in the Eagles, and Saquon does Saquon things.
He did. He's done it twice. He had it done twice to him that year, and that's what we knew coming in. And he could have even had a better game. He's still
We don't have to talk about too much about the Eagles right in here because we'll talk about them in the Super Bowl.
But one of the things I do want to say is I think we discussed both sides of the offensive line and defensive line for Eagles is dominant, but it also really came down to turnovers, just missed opportunities by the Commanders. Obviously, we believe the Eagles were going to win regardless.
Yeah,
but it could have been an even better game if not been for there was the Eckler fumble, there was a fumble on the kickoff. It was at the very beginning of
three fumbles and the Jaden Daniels pick.
It was by the time that the game was already over. Yeah. But those were huge moments that the Commanders at the very beginning of the game had a chance of holding on after that first quarter, and I was hopefully keeps it a little bit close. But it for the most part it was over by the third because once Eagles get up, they are going to run the ball, and obviously if you can't stop the run, there's no hope for you. So they're pretty much just playing catch up at that point. And like I said, kudos to the Commanders for having a really great season. They have so much money, and they still have a good bit of draft capital. They can make some moves.
And the thing with the draft capital, you have the capital, but it's also you have new ownership who looks significantly better than Dan Snyder. So players might want to come play for them because of new owners. They're also going to want to play because Jaden Daniels looks amazing.
Yes.
It's the same thing that kind of happened with the Texans last year where Stroud popped off and people were like, yeah, I'll go play for the Texans. New franchise, new head coach.
I think people love playing for
people like playing for Dan Quinn. He's a good head coach. And Jaden Daniels looks really good. So they're going to be able to spend, I think they have $100 million.
They have I think it's Patriots and then them. I think both of them are over 100. It's kind of ridiculous. And
beyond the cap or over the cap?
Over the cap, yeah. But to be fair with the Commanders is that the way that the draft is that they can they're the third. So
they have $78 million. Probably Patriots can also get more than that.
Patriots have 120. That is insane. But basically, we'll get into it later on in the year. But Commanders can make a lot of strides to solidify themselves as trying to be a playoff contender. I don't think this is just going to be a one and done for Jaden Daniels for the next couple of years. They're in division. There you have the Cowboys. They're the Cowboys, and you have the Giants. So it's pretty much just you and the Eagles in that East unless something drastically changes. So like you can probably make yourself a wild card team or even win the division, depends on what happens with the Eagles, because
Eagles have a lot of people to pay in the next couple of years.
And I want to preface this. Just because you're good right now does not mean you will stay good the next 3 years. You never know with injuries. You never know with retirements. You never know any of this kind of stuff. So a lot of things up in the air. But
Howie does do a good job of drafting. He's one of the better drafting GMs in the NFL. But we don't have. This is not an off-season thing, so we can get all the Commander stuff later. But basically, Eagles really good. Commanders had a really good, promising season, and you're not mad about you get blown out. You're not mad about it. You're not. You made it
to the conference championship game for the first time since 1991.
Yeah, you beat the juggernaut Lions, who had no defensive starters. You still beat them.
They have their secondary.
Yeah, you also beat a pretty feisty Bucks team that I picked, and a lot of people thought, yeah, this is a pretty solid Bucks team. They might not go far, but they're definitely a good team. So you can definitely be happy with that. It's the first playoff win in 20 years.
No. It was the first one since 05 because they beat Cadillac Williams rookie year Bucks, and so it was kind of interesting that 20 years later their first win is against the Bucks.
But they're not as mad as this team that we'll talk about now. The Bills, Chiefs, they played again. The Bills lost again.
We both went for the Bills. I was so hoping that
it was their year. I thought this was the best equipped team to beat the Bills or to beat the Chiefs as the Bills. They had a great play caller who looks like he's going to be back, which will be huge, getting Joe Brady back. Their offensive line played really well this year.
I mean, I think Josh Allen had 17 sacks this year. It was
and it helps. I mean, Josh Allen's legs to factor into that, but also the offensive line was really good. It was awesome on the ground. I mean, they have 3 running backs that they kind of just factor in. James Cook, you've got
Ray Davis, and
Ty Johnson, 3 guys who all kind of do different things, and they all can catch passes. Ray Davis actually is a pretty solid receiving back, and he's their good power back. James Cook can bust out these big plays, and he gets like we saw in the Chiefs game, he gets really skinny and just jutes up and shoots through some small gaps. And Ty Johnson is one of the best third down backs in the league. And then the defense let him down again, basically.
It's just missed opportunities on both sides too. As much as we might say on the defensive side, there were still times where the Buffalo Bills as an offense did not get it done. Now, obviously,
I think this is a vintage Josh Allen playoff game.
Yes, it's very much like you had the ball with 3 timeouts, 3 minutes left to go, and you couldn't even get a first down. That is what really hurt me. It was just then you had another shot too, and you can say well, the defense let them down there, sure, but you legit had one of your best opportunities. Just don't have to rush it. Don't have to do anything. Literally, you can. It is your drive, and you couldn't come through. That was.
I think the biggest thing to me watching Kyrie Elam out there was painful.
Yes,
he was bad. Really, and as soon as he came in the game, the Chiefs were "Yep, going at this guy every single time."
He is 7 yards off of Hollywood Brown.
Did they draft him right above McDuffie or behind McDuffie?
It was behind McDuffie because McDuffie was before him, and then it was because it was McDuffie and Karlaftis.
Man, if you could have done McDuffie instead of Kyrie Elam. Obviously, they did get what's his face hurt.
Yeah, Benford. Yeah,
Benford is really good, and so losing him hurts. But the thing with me that always comes back with the Bills, they can never get consistent pressure on Mahomes. That's why when Myles Garrett requested a trade, they need to be the team that's in on him. I know you mentioned the Detroit Lions. We don't talk about here, but Myles Garrett, I don't care what you have to give up. If you are trading 2 firsts and 2 seconds, I would throw that in a heartbeat for Myles Garrett if I'm the Bills, because that's the missing piece.
Because you thought you were going to get that with a Von Miller.
Von Miller coming off an ACL tear, and he's 34. That's not super smart. This is Myles Garrett. This is a dude who probably has been the best defensive lineman in the NFL for the last 2 to 3 years. He is an awesome run defender.
That's not getting really any kind of help from the other defensive line. As much as there's the TJ Watt versus Myles Garrett, TJ at least has like some help around him. He has a really good Robin with Alex Highsmith.
Yeah.
He's got a really good interior pressure with goodness gracious, Keanu Benton and also Cameron Hayward. Like TJ Watt is obviously really good himself, but Myles Garrett doesn't have that help.
Yeah.
And so like if he gets to go to the Bills,
and Oliver is good. AJ Epinesa is a solid.
Gregory Rousseau is another good one.
Rousseau, like you just need that guy.
Yes.
And look, we can do all the Myles Garrett if he actually gets traded, which he definitely should get traded.
If I'm
but like to Bills, it's just again like they weren't able to get pressure on Mahomes when the Chiefs had bad tackles.
Yes.
Like Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter the week before, they were giving work.
They had to put Joe Tooney out.
I know, like they were. I know that the Texans lost. It was Will Anderson was wrecking the right tackle, or Juwan Taylor. Like, they were just killing him, and like they were just doing quick passes, like because they had to nullify the pass rush. Like you get a guy like Myles Garrett, just add him to that pass rush, and you can get a guy who can actually get consistent pressure.
Yeah.
I just feel bad for Bills fans. I thought this was the year. I wanted them to win. I like Josh Allen a lot. I think he's the number one player in NFL history in touchdowns per game in the playoffs. He's number one in touchdowns to turnover rate in the playoffs, and he's number one in yards per game in the playoffs. And he has not reached the Super Bowl. Like Josh Allen is a historic playoff riser.
It's 4 out of 5 times with the Chiefs. Then the one time is also with the Bengals. Like it's just like it's just getting so close. It's literally
that 13 seconds will haunt them.
If
they never win a Super Bowl, they never make a Super Bowl. That 13 seconds will haunt them for like decades. That'll be like the Jim Kelly. They lost 3 straight times.
It's going to be like that, or it's going to be like the Dan Marino not making it to the 1985. Because like literally, like Dan Marino's Dolphins are the one team that could beat the Bears, and then they just stunk it up against the Patriots in the and I think it was the divisional round that they played in the playoffs. Like literally, the Dolphins could have won the Super Bowl that year. We wouldn't be talking about the Bears. But like it's that of just like as far as like his legacy, because we talked about it before. Right now the MVP is between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. It's going to be Lamar, and also Josh Allen's not going to get Offensive Player of the Year because he was not even up for nomination.
The Offensive Player of the Year always goes to position player having a good year, so they don't go to Saquon.
So like he's going empty-handed this year. Like as good as
he's going to make second team All Pro, or he did make second team All Pro, but. With Lamar I don't like how they announce first team All Pro before because then it's like, okay, well, we know who wins MVP.
No.
I do think Josh should have won MVP, but that's a whole different conversation. It just feels bad for the Bills. I know we haven't talked about the Chiefs at all because we're about to talk about them right now.
Yeah.
Chiefs versus Eagles, Super Bowl. Don't love it. It's 2 heavyweights. Like I think it's going to be a good game at the least. It's just from a interest standpoint, I'm just like, come on, again. Like I don't want to watch the Chiefs again in the Super Bowl. And it's not like, oh, the 3-peat, it's fun. I was like, I want new blood in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I want it's fun when it's like a team that's been bad for decades or been bad for like the Chiefs early on when they won their first Super Bowl. It's like, okay, this team's been bad for 50 years and now they're winning a Super Bowl and they won the second one. It's like, okay, it's still kind of cool. And then it's like, okay, stop at this point. And it's like the Eagles have also been so good for the last decade. Like they won a Super Bowl in the last decade. I want a team that hasn't been in, or maybe they've been in a Super Bowl that hasn't won a Super Bowl in the last like decade and a half. Like, and there are like 25 teams who have.
There's some teams that have never even been.
Okay, now I'll go.
I mean,
we've only been in around for 23 years.
You haven't been to an AFC championship game.
That'll happen next year. It won't happen next year.
All right,
but
clip
we'll
it.
get close. We'll get close. If it happens next year, like it'll happen eventually. I'm not too worried about it. It'll happen in the shroud eventually. But it's just give me some new blood in the Super Bowl. I was like, this is a good game, but I feel like from a storylines perspective, outside of the three-peat, there's not a lot really.
There's the
you can say stuff, but it's not as compelling as like Josh winning his first. Like, I don't know.
It's a tie-in with a three-peat that could be a good, interesting storyline. Is the three-peat started with the Eagles. The Chiefs getting all of the, because I know you were talking about it, the Chiefs getting all the calls with the refs started in that Super Bowl too because of the James Bradbury situation, and that kind of carried over into the next year and into this year as well. Like,
I'll let you finish.
Yeah. So like, there's that as far as like, can they finish the trilogy, the three-peat where they begin defeating the Eagles, or can the Eagles right the wrong what happened 2 years ago and finally and be able to win and be able to vindicate all the other 32? Well, I'll say not the NFC East, because they're obviously not going to be happy about that, and Pittsburgh is not going to be happy about that, and also some city officials prefer Philadelphia because they're going to trash the city. But for the most part, people are going to be hoping that the Eagles can at least just get the three-peat done, because no one really wants to see it. And honestly, I'm also going to bring this up too. It's a little controversial, but if you are the Chiefs, like a Chiefs fan, do you really want a three-peat? Because here's my thing. Hear me out.
Yes, because it's a Super Bowl champion.
It's a Super Bowl championship, but you will never be able to chase this high. If you're at the top, and you've done something that nobody else,
you're never going to be able to chase a repeat.
I know, but what I'm saying is that the reason why there's a lot of people who are like being very defensive and being very defensive is just like, both of us have on sucky teams. We can like complain about certain stuff. We can be like, dude, this is like, we're so close, or we're not close, or what the heck are we doing? But if you're at the very top, it's very hard for people to be like listening to you complain about certain things. You're like, you just won the Super Bowl. You won a second Super Bowl. You won a third Super Bowl in a row. Yeah. You have no room to talk. And for the very long time, and for like even longer, it's going to last forever for a lot of fans to focus solely on the three-peat. The undefeated season happened in 1972, and Dolphins fans will not forget it, because that's the peak they've been to.
I wouldn't forget about it either.
But what I'm saying is there's a downside to potentially winning a three-peat. I know
they'll win another Super Bowl with Mahomes,
but
even if they win this one and they lose that, they're going to win probably in the next 10 years 2 more Super Bowl. Like, not counting this year, they'll probably win 2 more Super Bowls at least. I'd be very surprised. I mean, we'll see how many years Andy Reid still coaches. Travis Kelce, despite what he's saying in the media, I think he's going to retire after this year. He noticeably lost a step this year, but
especially if he can go on top.
Yeah, like we'll see. They're still going to win Super Bowls though. Yeah, with Mahomes. But I will say that the Chiefs refs thing, it's a little overblown, a little bit. But I mean, part of it is that the Chiefs play like almost all of their games are like nationally televised, primetime games. So there's a lot of eyeballs. Like, no team plays. Maybe like I have to look at the exact numbers, but there are not really any teams that play on primetime as much as the Chiefs.
Maybe Cowboys.
Yeah, but they lose.
Yes,
like they suck. So, but like the Chiefs are always good and they're always on primetime. The thing with the refs is I can't think of really any instance in like these close games, because the Chiefs play teams close normally, that a call goes against the Chiefs. Like a controversial call that's like game deciding really goes against the Chiefs. And that's the problem that I think a lot of the NFL fans that are more rational.
The only time that it happened was actually the right call, but Chiefs fans wanted to complain about it.
Yeah.
That was the Kadarius Toney toe, like, his foot way over the line.
Yeah. He was offsides.
It was offsides. And so like that's the only time that you can really think about it. But outside of that, you can't really think of another time that
it's just there's all these controversial calls, no calls, like these weird stuff that goes on. It's like, okay, come on. Like, I'm talking about like in the Bills game, off the top of my head, I had texted you a bunch of stuff. I don't feel like going through my text messages and finding it, because we text all the time. So I just scroll up pretty far. There was the touchdown that the Chiefs had. There was a delay of game. Like for 2 seconds, it was a delay of game, and they didn't call it. There was a hands to the face that they did. Just like the dude's helmet's on the ground. I'm sorry, when a defender's helmet is on the ground, like our defensive lineman's helmet's on the ground, 99.999% of the time, it's going to be a hands to the face, no call. And it was hands to the face. They reviewed it, and I think it was Romo, but like, that's a hands to the face. And there was a holding call that happened that like they just on a sack. They got lucky that they sacked him, but like it's right in front of the referee. They don't call it. There's all these other stuff that goes on. Like they don't call a pass interference when Kyle Pitts is like open in the end zone and he gets tackled. Like it's just all these things compound to having the narrative that the Chiefs get help from the refs. And I wish I had this. Let me see. Oh yeah, the unsportsmanlike conduct. Kelsey comes and taunts him.
Yeah.
And then the flat, and it's like, come on, like at least throw it like a taunting on Kelsey. He comes up in his face and it's like jawing at him. Like that's taunting. Any other team that's taunting. Like they never call the false starts on Juwan Taylor. And some of them are egregious. Yes. Like I get Lane Johnson does it sometimes. It's not as egregious. Like Juwan Taylor, there's times where he's a yard and a half up the field.
And like there are certain things that he does that is making it to where like he's going by the rule that he's not false starting. But I agree. There are sometimes he gets caught though. There are sometimes he gets caught. But for the most part, he's just doing it because he knows that he can get away with it.
And also, like, I mean, we can go back to the Texans game. Like, that Will Anderson, like that roughing the passer on Will Anderson, absolute joke. Yeah. The one where Mahomes is running around, and then just drops, and then the two defenders hit each other, and they throw the 15-yard penalty. It's like, what are we? He's a runner. Yeah. What are we doing here? And also, he doesn't even get like he gets nicked in the head. It's the other Texans players who hit each other.
And like I think that part of it was because it was so cold and the Texans player hit each other that it made like a loud hit.
Yeah, and then but then you see the freaking Mahomes on the sideline and where Toto pushes him out, and you see him actively try to flop, and like I'm glad he pushed him. If that was Azeez Al-Shaair, man, Mahomes would have been dead on the field, and I would have been not super mad about it. Like Azeez Al-Shaair would have killed him, which I'm glad it wasn't Azeez because then it would have been a penalty. But he got a little lucky. Like he was in the field of play, but like seeing him try to flop for calls like that, it just pisses me off. People are like, it makes me dislike Mahomes. Mm-hmm. It's like I didn't see Brady flopping for calls.
Well,
at least since I started watching it, mainly because he was scrambling around.
He definitely he might not have flopped for calls, but
also
was like
early in Brady's career, he's playing against Ray Lewis when you could literally kill people in the field. No, and that was real football. That was man football.
I'm talking about like Brady definitely like complained about not getting calls, like not getting.
Yeah, but he's not out there like flopping on the ground.
He's also not athletic enough. I mean, then again, he's also like in his 40s, so like there's that too. Yeah. But I could agree with some of the stuff that you said. I think that obviously there's been talks and really like just like this whole entire Super Bowl, like 2 weeks or so, talking about the refs. I mean, heck, there was the guy that said like, "Hey,
that was stupid.
That was so stupid."
You get one chance to ask a question
and ask your question,
like to an undoubtedly going to be a top 5 quarterback. Probably already is.
He's already a top 5 quarterback as far as
undoubtedly going to be maybe the best quarterback of all time. At a Super Bowl, you get credentialed, and that's your question. That's just stupid.
It's like one of those questions that you're like, oh, people are gonna really talk about this one. It's just like when I heard that, I was like. But
let's get into the actual game.
Actual game. Okay. Like, we talked about all this surrounding stuff. Talk about the two individual teams.
Let's hope there's no controversial calls against the Eagles. Like the last, like whatever with James Bradbury, that was a hold.
Yes.
And for some reason, it's been super, super duper controversial.
It's mainly because during the game they didn't call that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and then
they didn't call it. That is another thing.
That's another thing.
Calls that don't go against the Chiefs, they get called in the Chiefs. But like whatever, that James Bradbury thing was a hold. That's probably going to be talked about a couple of times during the game.
Oh, absolutely,
100%. That will be on. They will have that queued up and ready.
Cooper DeJean's going to have a holding there, be like, "Whoa, hey! Remember 2 years ago?"
Yeah, but getting into the actual game.
Yes.
Who are you picking? I'll let you.
Let me go first. Okay, so I have a twofer. I'm gonna go with who I'm not picking for first, and the reason why I would have picked them, and then I'll go with my actual prediction. So who I'm not picking is the Chiefs. I just can't. Okay. Is there a shot of making a three-peat? Absolutely. I think they have a fabulous team. I think the Eagles have a fabulous team. So I'll go with if the Chiefs do win, here's how I see it happening: is that they are going to be they're able to get off to a not a sizable lead, but enough of a lead. I think that the Eagles are really going to need to depend on Saquon Barkley this game. They've been doing it pretty much the whole entire playoffs. Jalen Hurts has had some pretty good games.
In this game.
He's the best player in this game. So if you're able to get to a little bit of a lead and you can focus solely on trying to make sure you stop Saquon, then it's going to come down to Devontae Smith, because Devontae Smith has had a really, really good job against Steve Spagnuolo's defenses. So if I am the Chiefs and I'm winning, they're probably going to have to put up close to 30 points, in my opinion, to win this game, because even though I like the Chiefs defense, I don't know how much they're going to be able to stop Saquon. And like I said, Devontae Smith has been having really good games against him. I think he averages over 100 yards a game and 6 or 7 catches. He does a really good job against like I said, a Steve Spagnuolo's defense. So if the Chiefs win, my score prediction will be 33-23, and then Jake Elliott misses some field goals. But I am picking the Eagles to win, and the reason being is because I really, really like their defense matchup against the Chiefs. Obviously, we talked about the Chiefs tackles being in a very, very bad shape, especially against the Texans. So can Nolan Smith get some pressure on Jawan Taylor? Obviously, he's a little lower to the ground. Very, very great first step. I liked him coming out of Georgia, and in this playoffs, he's done a really good job as far as using that speed rush, getting to the quarterback. But it's Jalen Carter. If Jalen Carter can somehow get himself, on the left guard, who's the left guard for the Chiefs, because they have Joe Tooney out at left tackle. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But Jalen Carter is going to have to wreak havoc, because, in my opinion, I think that Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to devise a really good scheme to try to get Travis Kelce open, to try to get Xavier Worthy using his speed, because they're not going to want to have Quinyon Mitchell line up on him, because he is going to lock him down. So there's going to be a lot of creative stuff that the Chiefs are going to be able to do, but it's going to come down to the fact, can they get pressure on Patrick Mahomes? I think that if they're able to, they can force him into bad situations that they'll just have to take the field goals. And Harrison Butker has been outstanding in Super Bowls. He's probably going to have 2 or 3 field goals.
Yeah.
For the Eagles, it's going to, like I said, on offense, it's going to come down to, can Jalen Hurts play like he has last game? And also, I think he had a pretty decent game against
Rams.
He not really didn't have a good game against the Rams, but he had a really good game against the Commanders. But overall, he hasn't had a really good season. But he needs to step up in the Super Bowl, as far as they're going to try to start Saquon. I think Saquon's still going to do a good enough job, but he needs to make plays, find Devontae Smith, find Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert needs to be a huge part, because the Chiefs have Leo Chanel, they have Drew Tranquil, and they have Nick Bolton. All of them are really good linebackers that we're focusing on. We just, like I said, stopping Saquon at all costs. Whoever Trent McDuffie's not lined up on needs to go off in that scenario. So I'm going to pick the Eagles winning 27-23. I'm not super confident, because I think it can go either way, but it's going to be a good game regardless. Yeah. So who do you have, and why do you pick that score?
Everything in me, everything that I look at says the Eagles are the better team.
Mm-hmm.
They have the better roster. I like how they match up with the Chiefs. It's just, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs are just going to win. They're going to find a way to win, because that's what they do. It doesn't really make sense how they win. This is the exact reason I picked them 2 years ago. I was like, the Eagles are the better team, and they're the better roster, especially on the weapons. The Chiefs didn't have good weapons then. They still won the Super Bowl. And it's the Eagles, I really like how they match up. Defensive line-wise, you already said. I really like how their offensive line matches up too.
Yeah.
I mean, Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson were full participants, so they're going to play. So they're going to have their healthy offensive line, and that offensive line they are dudes, man. That is especially running the ball. That it's the best offensive line. It's complete, and they also have like solid backups. Like I mean, they don't have guys that can replace,
but like Tyler Steen could replacing.
It's
for
like they can. They have guys that are versatile, can move around. So like even if you lose an injury, it's not the end of the world. But having that full offensive line is going to be huge. Saquon's been insane all season, and the Chiefs have been a little susceptible to the run. The Texans were able to run the ball on them. The Bills were able to run the ball on them a little bit before they started having to throw the ball because they got behind. But so like I'm looking at, okay, you got the best offensive line in football with the best running back in football. They should be able to run. I'm just gonna say Jalen Hurts hasn't had a good year. I'm just gonna lean with the best quarterback. Now I am underselling the Chiefs roster a little bit, but Andy Reid's play calling he's gonna find ways to work it. Like I know Joe Thuney will be the left tackle. I don't love the matchup with Juwan Taylor and then their left guard. But like Jalen Carter's going to be a dog. It's just, I don't know. They're just going to figure it out. Like, it's hard to give like a nuanced breakdown on why the Chiefs are going to win. They always get teams into close games late, and then they always rise up and the other team always falls. It just happens because, I mean, you don't fall into winning 2 Super Bowls. Well, even if you have help from the refs, you still got to be a really, really damn good team.
Yeah. And
they are, and they're well coached. And they just know how to win. And Mahomes just always is going to do something, and he's going to make a play when he needs. Like it's going to be a 3rd and 8, and he's going to scramble for 10 yards and going to pick it up and extend the drive. And then, like you said, Harrison Butker is always money. Like you can, if he's like 55 yards,
I'm pretty sure he's still 100% in the Super Bowl.
Like 55 yards in big games, he's like just count it. Like just go ahead and put the 3 points on the board. And I don't know. It's just hard for me to pick. Like I just think Jalen Hurts is going to make some mistakes.
Yeah.
I just think the Eagles are better weapons wise. They're better offensive line wise. They're better defensive line wise.
They're better running back right.
I think running back is better, but like I think I'd give the edge to the Chiefs secondary. I'd give the edge to the Chiefs linebackers. Even though Zach Bond's been amazing this year, just they got 3 guys. And they lost
and Kobe Dean, but also Warren Burks played really good.
But I'd give coaching is the thing that I give the big edge, at least offensively.
Yes,
I mean I'd give Spagnuolo the edge over Fangio, but Fangio is also an elite defense coordinator who's been around the block, and he's on. Fangio though has struggled against Mahomes.
Here's the thing. He's done enough to limit them, but when his offense has never come to play. I mean, then again, most of them that he played Mahomes was when he was at Denver, so he had like a Drew Lock and whatnot. But for the most part, like they've been like 20. I think like on average they might score close to like 19, 20 as far as overall. But
I don't know. I just have a feeling the Chiefs are they're just gonna win because that's what they do. I don't know. Hurts is gonna throw a pick. Saquon's gonna fumble for like somehow, and it's just gonna. There's gonna be someone else to fumble. Like the big person for the Eagles, I know you highlighted like AJ Brown, Devontae Adams, Dallas Goedert. The Eagles are not good against tight ends. That is like the area of their defense that they're really not good against.
The Chiefs or the Eagles?
Chiefs.
Okay,
Chiefs. The Chiefs are not very good against opposing tight ends. So I want to see what Dallas Goedert does. If he has a big game, that's going to obviously be in the Chiefs' favor because as good as the linebackers are for the Chiefs, they do struggle a little bit in coverage. And like opposing tight ends have been able to work the Chiefs a little bit over the course of the season. Maybe not they haven't the last 2 games, but over the course of the season, they actually have.
Well, you got Dalton Schultz and then Dalton Kincaid. So I guess maybe just Dalton.
Dalton's just don't do good, I guess.
You know. Dallas, maybe.
Dalton Schultz is terrible. So, but I don't know. I'm picking the Chiefs. I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win 26-23. I'm going to say like a Harrison Butker field goal in the final 2 minutes, and then the Eagles can't drive down the field because they're going to be like, all right, Hurts, it's your time to shine, and he just won't be able to do it.
And that's the reason why,
like I don't hate Jalen Hurts.
No,
I like Jalen Hurts. I'm just like, he hasn't had a good year. And objectively, he is a much worse quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. If this was Jalen Hurts from 2 years ago,
absolutely.
I would find it almost impossible for the Chiefs to win. If like Jalen Hurts was like 2 years ago, where he's like a really, really good passer, because then they have like everything else on the team is pretty much upgraded.
And honestly, like here's the other thing too. Some of the stuff is not necessarily on him. It's just the fact that they've been really good at running the ball. So of course, some of his numbers haven't been.
But he hasn't been that good.
But he has been good. That's the other thing too. That's why I said, like, if the Chiefs win, it's because they're able to get a little bit of a lead, and then it kind of forces the Eagles to kind of go away from that. Not necessarily go entirely away from the game plan, but it starts putting more and more pressure on Jalen to be like, hey, okay, now you kind of have to, come back. And I think just kind of what you talked about with the Chiefs, like them being able to get turnovers. I think the Eagles being able to get turnovers because they've shown it throughout this.
Honestly, it's the Chiefs just they're not going to turn it over because it's the Super Bowl. I don't know. It's hard to really put into words. I just think the Chiefs are going to win. Like I know where they have advantages, and they obviously have the big quarterback advantage. I think it's going to come down to Mahomes is going to make plays and Jalen Hurts isn't. And I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that after Sunday, or when we do our next episode, I can say Chiefs were Super Bowl. I don't want to say Chiefs. Our Eagles are Super Bowl champions because I don't like the Eagles either. But I like them more than the Chiefs
right now.
So yeah, we'll see if they start to three-peat. But I don't know. You got anything else to add?
This has been a wild NFL season that has culminated in a very predictable Super Bowl as far as the two top dogs, what could have been. I mean, like literally, if Bills Lions, would have fed families for sure.
That would have been awesome.
But you know what? There's always next year. We'll end this on the
next year Chiefs versus Eagles again.
No. It's gonna be Chiefs versus the Saints. This is it's just gonna happen. Because the Saints, they're just waiting.
Kellen Moore's gonna take them.
Kellen Moore, absolutely. I mean, like all the stuff that's coming about the Saints right now is just gonna motivate. It's gonna motivate them.
They're hiring Kellen Moore.
Yeah, it has to be because at this point I'm like, I wanted to almost like see. I was like, what is the longest that a NFL team has been without a head coach? Because they fired Dennis Allen at week 9. I predicted week 10 at the very beginning of the season.
I mean, the Texans didn't have a coach after week 4. The Texans did.
True.
The Texans fired Bill O'Brien week 4 or 5, and we were the last team to hire a head coach. And when we hired David Culley.
No, that's true.
So we didn't have we were the last ones to hire, and we were the first ones to fire.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a long time.
And then
I remember being
with David Culley is.
In hindsight, it worked out. And hindsight, I didn't love the
hire. I mean, sorry for David Culley. Basically,
yeah, but he was a scapegoat, and Nick Caserio knew he was going to be a scapegoat from the beginning because he had to rebuild that job. And hey, Nick Caserio's done a great job. I love Nick.
And Nick has done a great job, but also you also have to thank Lovie Smith for getting the man who shall not be named out of there.
Zach Easterby.
I mean, you have to.
The devil. I would rather watch the Chiefs go for 6 Super Bowls than have Zach Easterby ever sniff my team again. Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
But it's been a very interesting and fun NFL season.
Yes. Both of our teams are on the up and up.
Yeah, but you have a franchise quarterback. I think I have a franchise quarterback.
You don't even. Don't even.
Texans did hire a new offense coordinator. I like it. They did retain their assistants offensive line coach.
Chip Kelly.
No, I like Nick Kelly. He was my number 2 guy on a Texans.
I said Chip
but that's all we have
for
today's episode. Hopefully it's just a good Super Bowl.
I do think it's going to be a good Super Bowl. I think it's going to be also a really, really good halftime show. That's what I'm also ready for, too.
Who is it?
Kendrick.
Oh, it's Kendrick. Everyone's gonna sing A minor at the end, like they did at the Grammys.
More than likely, yeah.
But thank y'all for watching, and see you on the next one.
Bye.